This is the Triple Play Fantasy Basketball Show, proud member of Empire Media. I'm your host, representing Baltimore County, Maryland. Coach Jay Lewis, fresh off coaching my middle school track and field county championship meet. We won by a nail biter, a team score of 94-91. The boys won by 2, the girls won by 1. And my guy, he ran away with the 1,600, 400, and 200. What a day. I love coaching my middle school students. We are again joined by a special group of our Triple Play fantasy family, live from an undisclosed location. The Monkey Fight champ, host of Triple Play's Fantasy Movie Minutes. He might feature a zombie horror movie flick coming soon, and that's none other than Mr. Bradley Kilgore. What up?
I'm also going to be half-assing this podcast while I watch the Wizards versus Philly game live.
You half-ass a podcast? Nah. You've never done that before.
My half-ass is everybody else's full strength.
You heard it here. Representing Fresno, California, a guy who's crushing the YouTube Triple Play Fantasy channel with recent takes on Mac Jones' dynasty outlook, and he features Jacksonville Jaguars 2021. Again, another fantasy outlook. The details, the insight. This is the type of information that's going to help you win your fantasy football league. Coach, I kind of want to call you Professor K. Cole. That's my guy, Kevin Coleman. You can find him at DuBois_22. Welcome back.
Hey, man. Glad to be here. I don't want to hear any Wizards fans talk about how they have the worst franchise in history when my Kings can't even make the playoffs when they have 27 teams in the playoffs. I don't want to hear it anymore. Kings have the worst franchise in history.
Recency bias says that, the Kings are worse.
Yeah, they are.
We also welcome in a man, the man of Triple Play Fantasy Sports, the guy who hit me up to say, I would like you to be on our basketball pod. I think you'd be great. My fellow Towson Peehee cohort graduate, the one who squats and benches Wilt Chamberlain level numbers, someone who finally decided to stop ducking us and got him on a basketball show. This is Montgomery County, Maryland's finest, David Mendelson, or as we call him, D. Mendy. How you doing?
You flatter me way too much. What an intro. You should be doing all our intros with that, man. Pumped to be here with you guys, man. I'm entering the sport that I don't talk about enough, but I love just the same. So I'm ready to get into this with y'all.
You know, it's funny because I had to go with a basketball guy. I first thought of Saquon Barkley numbers, but, we wanted to make it relevant, and I couldn't think of anyone. So I just went into a time machine and said, hey, Wilt Chamberlain works.
Hey, putting me next to Wilt Chamberlain, I will not have a problem with that.
The Big Dipper is here. All right. The 2021 playoffs are here as well. Today's podcast will feature Kwame and Gilbert. Might not be having any play dates anytime soon. The Hall letting Big Ben Wallace in. Our picks for Sixth Man of the Year, Most Improved Player of the Year, our performances of the play-in games, and finally, we play a little Who You Got for all of our 8 playoff matchups. But first, a little news and notes. We just about wrapped up with the NBA regular season, and when one story ends, another begins, and that is Elimination NBA playoff basketball, with 4 teams already on vacation to go with the other 10 not making it, including Kev's Sacramento Kings. Let's start with a little awards recap. Monty Williams of the 2-seed Phoenix Suns named Coach of the Year over Tibbs and Quinn Snyder. Thoughts, Kev?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. They're going to lose in the first round anyway. So, I mean, he did a great regular season. He did well. I just don't see them, good for him. I thought Tibbs could have got it because I think they have a shot to win that first round. I think he turned around that area. I think it was more about Chris Paul there than it was about Monty. And Monty's great. But I think in the end, I think New York needed Tibbs more.
That's funny because I have it written down. Does CP3 also get a trophy?
He should. He should get a participation trophy. He's going to lose in the first round again, too. Sorry, CP.
Brad?
Yeah, man, I had Monty Williams as my pick on our last episode, but I thought it was off the board. I thought Tibbs was going to win it. I think Monty's deserving, man. There's not a lot of teams that could go from bubble to, well, actually 8-0 in the bubble last year to
with no CP.
With no CP to, CP is there and now they're a 2 seed. So I just think he's done an excellent job. It's clear that the players like him, they respect him, and they trust his judgment. They listen to him, and that doesn't really happen on NBA franchises where the players are making more than the coaches, and in some instances the players think they know more than the coaches, and in some instances that's true. So I think Monty Williams is a good pick, and he's a great coach, and I think the Suns have a very bright future, whether CP3 is there or Devin Booker's there or not, because they have a coach that can actually implement schemes and make things work. So I like the pick.
David?
I wish you went to me second because Brad took all my points. The fact that they went 8-0 in the bubble last year, I think already kind of started building that case. They look like a totally different team under him. And like Brad mentioned as well, how many coaches do you see players publicly backing, talking about how great coaches they are? But a lot of them are just recycled. Monty Williams, I feel like, is one of the most respected names by the players. They always talk about how great of a coach he is. And the fact that the Phoenix Suns are the number 2 seed, I know Chris Paul is there, but who would have ever thought the Phoenix Suns would get to the number 2 seed? I think Tom Thibodeau is a good second choice, but the leap that the Suns have taken over the last couple of years, I think it was just a foregone conclusion. It had to be Monty Williams.
And I'll just chime in with, Quinn Snyder and Tibbs have already won this award. And sometimes I see them trying to fish for a new coach to win as opposed to giving a coach the award multiple times. And he deserves credit. CP3 deserves credit. The emergence of Booker and Aiden deserve credit. And also, I want to shout out James Jones as a general manager, former LeBron James brother and teammate. He's really put a great roster configuration around their superstar in Devin Booker.
You know what? I was listening to Tim Duncan's Hall of Fame speech, and he was like, continuity was a big part. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but continuity was a big part of why he became the person he was. Being able to look to your left and your right, and always being able to count on that person, and knowing they're going to be there next year and the year after, and when they're not, it's because you're moving up and they're handing the keys over to you. I think the Suns, staying with Monty Williams and keeping him there and making sure it's not a coaching carousel and just getting a new guy all the time, that's a part of building culture, and the Suns need to build a culture. So it says more to what Jones is doing and what that entire organization is doing, that they're actually keeping something together and they're trying to grow it.
And that's funny. Go ahead, Dave.
I was gonna say one last point. Correct me if I'm wrong. Again, my basketball is a little out of date sometimes. Did it not also, like Chris Paul, wasn't there a rumor he was going to go to Philly at the trade deadline, and he pretty much nixed it because he wanted to stay in Phoenix?
That is correct.
So, I mean, that just shows right there, you have somebody that has a chance to go to the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, a contender to go to the finals, pretty much guaranteed. Yeah. And this was before, obviously, also, I think the whole Big Three was built in Brooklyn too, right? So he had an opportunity to go there, said, no, I want to stay in Phoenix. So I think that goes into the culture like you're talking about.
Yeah, and to be the true alpha on a team. And it's funny you made that Tim Duncan comment, because he mentioned that Monty Williams was one of the vets when he first got on the Spurs that really showed him how to be a professional and just a great locker room guy. So it's funny how everything kind of just goes around and gets back together. Speaking of around and together or not together, Kwame Brown is beefing with Gilbert Arenas and all the smoke podcasts of Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes. I think we've all kind of taken a look at this. Whose side are you taking? David, we'll start with you this time. Lead off.
Oh, well, I'm glad you came to me first, because I found this out when I was at the gym on Wednesday, and I sat for about the next hour on my phone just watching everything on YouTube to digest it all. So first, I think the beef is over between the two. As far as Gilbert basically they settled it behind closed doors. So they're good now. He came out and said they're good. He still has beef with Captain Jack and Matt Barnes. And I was there for just
way to keep it clean. Way to keep it clean.
I was there for all the shots he was taking at I both guys, and those guys are just tucking their tail between their legs. I
don't even think white people should have been allowed to listen to that.
I'm sitting on the outside just watching, just laughing at Kwame Brown.
You guys shouldn't even know about what's going on.
Did you all ever hear him talk a day when he played? I'd never even heard his voice. And now all of a sudden the man's doing 30-minute YouTube videos every single day. I love it, man. Kwame Brown is the man. I just heard some stories Gilbert talked about that took 20 security guards to take him and his brother down in the club. And that like he is the definition of just like that guy you don't want to mess around with. I love it. Kwame Brown. I'm team Kwame Brown from here to the rest of life. I loved it.
Country strong.
Mm-hmm.
Brad.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's got a lot of like old school, like conservative talking points, and he's got a lot of problematic statements and gender roles and all that kind of stuff that you can't really get away with saying today. But a lot of the things he said aren't necessarily untrue. I think people definitely treated him unfairly, and they use him as the butt of the joke as if he's some sort of scrub. But he had a tremendous career in the league, and he stuck around for a long time because he's not a scrub. We compare him to other number one picks, and we think he's a bust. But compared to you or me, like he's a very successful person, and we don't really have the bandwidth to make fun of him like that. And I understand why he's kind of had his breaking point. And he wants to talk. He's also said a lot of things that I didn't know, like Elton Brand was supposed to get traded to the Wizards, and he was supposed to be a part of that deal. Like I didn't know that happened, and that makes sense for both teams, and it also probably changes the way his career trajectory would have been in terms of his usage rate and what he was supposed to do. So I think Kwame Brown definitely has a career in podcasting if he wants to make that happen, man. He's got a lot of interesting things to say.
And some of us do not forget that, as well as Pau Gasol was drafted number 3 that year as well. So I think there is a curse of Kwame Brown in big man when it comes to the Wizards. And Elton Brand really would have helped some of those teams that were on the verge of going over the edge when
it had like Rip Hamilton, like Jerry Stackhouse with MJ, like all those teams. That Elton Brand on those teams would have made the playoffs.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's kind of one of the ones that got away, and a former number 1 overall pick himself. Kev?
Yeah, I'm going to take it a little bit different. I thought what he said about like Stephen A. Smith was correct when he was talking about like how you guys have criticized me. And I think sometimes we forget that these guys are athletes, even us, like fantasy players and all this stuff. Like that's their career. Like, and we're not even close to what Kwame Brown can do on a court. It's always funny when these dudes, like, even remember Brian Scalabrine played a bunch of dudes at the YMCA and they were making fun of him, and he scored 50-0 or whatever. Like these guys are just, these guys are humans. And then with what Kwame was saying, I didn't have a father figure and that he didn't really have anybody protect him. And I thought that stuff, it rang true to me because I grew up without a dad too. So I understand kind of like where that comes from. And then you get Stephen A., who I guess was talking crap about him even at colleges, like 10 years later. Like these guys, they make all these millions and they forget who they're talking about. These are humans. And you could tell there's pain in his voice. And I felt bad for him because I think everybody's made a Kwame Brown joke. And that's unfortunate because I think that we got to look at these guys as humans first. I think we forget that when we analyze these guys, and it's all about getting clicks and making money off of them, like Stephen A. and all these guys that do. But in the end of the day, like be a good person. And so this definitely made me take a step back and be like, okay, if I'm going to critique somebody, like we do basketball vids all the time, and critique these kids, like always try to look at it from a different perspective and just be more fair towards them because they're kids. And he was 18 coming to the NBA playing with Michael Jordan, Stackhouse, these guys, like kids here, that's tough to do. So I kind of felt bad for him, and I hope that he can figure it out and he can move past it. But the no father thing really kind of struck a chord with me.
I think everything you said, Kevin, is I agree with. And I think the one thing that I really took from this was like, he's saying, don't feel bad for me. Like I'm good. I'm straight. Like you don't need to feel bad for me. I'm just tired of hearing the jokes. And to that point, like I think it's a positive story from that. I hope it doesn't progress any further. Like I hope there's no fight. Like I don't want any of that. They're too old to be fighting. And Matt Barnes works for ESPN. Like he's not trying to get in the ring or do anything like that. So I hope it kind of stays where it is and people just keep talking or just let it die. I think both Gilbert Arenas and Stephen A. Smith did the smart thing, and they just squashed it immediately. They were like, yep, he's right. I'm out. No smoke for me.
Well, I also think that Gilbert was speaking a lot of truth here. I mean, to come into the league and be playing with, the greatest basketball player to ever live and just kind of be getting eviscerated every day when you don't have confidence, and everything about basketball is confidence. it was not a great environment for him. And then you see players like Tim Duncan going into San Antonio. You have David Robinson, a true vet that's treating you the right way, showing you the ropes. And we've seen what happened with his career. Not saying Kwame was on that type of level, but he did have the physical tools to be a great player. And to Kevin's point, like, if I'm Kwame Brown, I don't want to be anybody's punching bag. And it was kind of, middle school girly, snarky comment, like, we're talking about the worst number 1 pick overall all time. And you feel bad for him. Like he kind of went over the edge a little bit, but you could see why. Like he's like, I'm standing up for myself. Like these guys are not going to be punking me, and good for Kwame. But Gilbert was saying some truths in there.
He also went from like MJ to Kobe. Like it was just constant people who have the same mentality to kind of like punk you into submission or punk you into an alpha. Like it was just he got a very tough draw from the jump. So
yeah,
and it was an era where you treated people like that, like toughen them up. And this day and age, you're a little bit more delicate with people's feelings and mental health. Like what a concept.
Can you imagine if you missed a layup with one of them on your team? They're probably like, don't pass. I was gonna say something like, don't pass him the ball. Like that would wreck me mentally. Like I missed a lot of layups before. Like that.
Kobe made some comments about Smush Parker, and I mean, you guys can look that up on your own. But it's just like you have no regard for that person's feelings.
And Stephen A. piggybacks off of that. Like he feeds off of that. Once Kobe talks about Smush Parker, every time on First Take, Smush Parker. Like
wow, who knew you had that impersonation in you?
I got a lot of impersonations, but yeah, like it's the media. The media plays a role in kind of messing with people's confidence because they'll piggyback off of whatever's hot, whatever's going to get clicks. So he just had a tough draw. I'm glad that he's doing well. I'm glad that he's defending himself. I just hope it doesn't, escalate.
So we go from the Kwame Browns of the world and the Smush Parkers of the world to the Hall of Fame 2021 class announced. We have Paul Pierce, who was a surefire first ballot, Chris Bosh as well. Chris Webber finally gets in, and Ben Wallace. Chris Webber, we've been banging that drum since Triple Play Fantasy Basketball Podcast started that he should be in the Hall. But Ben Wallace is probably the biggest surprise here. Thoughts on Big Ben, Kev?
Yeah, real quick. Chris Webber, you're lucky you quit announcing because now you can be in the NBA Hall of Fame. But before then, you were the worst announcer in basketball history. But before, anyway,
that's why it took him 8 years to get in because he
quit. He's not announcing anymore.
No, he
took a step away.
He understood. He listened to himself for the first time. Anyway, I think Ben is one of those guys that like us are going to appreciate probably more than the newer people. They'll probably watch his stuff and be like, why did, Hall of Fame? But he's really lucky he kind of played in the era that he did, right? Because he wouldn't fit in this area. There's really nothing that he can do out there in terms of basketball-wise that would fit. But he played in a perfect era. Just winning that title alone against the Lakers pretty much solidified it for you. He's one of the best defensive players there. And he changed the game. And he was part of the Malice in the Palace, so you got to put him in, right? There's all that stuff. So to me, he just changed the game. So, he changed the game the way he did and what he was able to bring to the basketball court. I think he's a Hall of Famer.
Dave.
Am I the only one that when I think of Ben Wallace, I don't think of the afro. I think of the little bands that he had on his arms that like looked like they were about to snap off. Y'all remember like
you're the only one.
But I mean, like Kevin said, I mean, he was literally like the face of defense. Like I don't have the top of my head how many defensive player of the year. I think he won like 4. Yeah, I was gonna say 3. Like, he won 4 defensive player of the year awards. Literally was an anchor for that Detroit Pistons team that won multiple championships. I mean, again, you want to reward defense, and this is rewarding defense. Ben Wallace as an offensive player, there's an argument to be made. I was a better offensive player than Ben Wallace. Stop it. Stop it. I mean, well, regardless, we can debate that later. But I think Ben Wallace was one of the best defensive players of his time and is justified to get in the Hall of Fame.
Brad.
Yeah, man. He played in an era where big men were essential and kind of the best of big men were playing in Ben Wallace's era. And he was undersized and he was an incredible defender. And he was probably the reason or at least top 2 or 3 reasons why that Detroit team won that championship. So I've been banging the Ben Wallace Hall of Fame drum for a while, and I look at him like in the same way that I look at Draymond Green. I just think they're tremendously underrated, and their value is provided, well among the box score, well beyond the box score, I should say. So I'm glad to see him get recognized, and that makes me feel better about Draymond's chances of getting in. So I think everybody that got in this class is well deserved, and it's going to be a great one.
I think Draymond's going to get in at the end of the day, and I think that he does provide. Ben Wallace did provide that type of defensive force. Bam Adebayo now just being able to defend multiple positions, even though like they didn't switch back then. But being undersized is the point that you made. Guarding Shaquille O'Neal in the NBA Finals, and hey, they were a quarter away from going back to back. They lost Game 7 against the Spurs and Tim Duncan, and that was one of the best teams in the 2000s era that didn't win multiple championships, but you could have seen them doing that. Also, he also deserves a shout out for being the first undrafted player that's going into the Hall of Fame, as well as representing the HBCU college, playing for Virginia Union. But we got 2 guys in here that got away from the Wiz. Chris Webber and Ben Wallace started their career there. Maybe we could get Rasheed Wallace in there as well, who also had a stint in Washington, but who knows? Maybe we're just cursed with never gonna have a great big man ever here in Washington.
I don't know. Daniel Gafford's looking pretty good.
Oh god,
he's definitely our best big. I don't know. He's gonna get swallowed up by Embiid, but
Embiid's already had a game. He's got 2 fouls.
Oh,
I like that. So you're saying we might steal Game 1? I like it.
I'm saying it, man. I had what did I have? Washington getting the conference finals this year? I don't remember
You got him. You had him in the finals. You had Russell Westbrook winning.
Had him in the finals. All right, I'm gonna stick with that.
All right,
I'm gonna stick with that. Listen, if you ask me, he still could get it. I know he's not a finalist, but the man averaged a triple-double and willed them to the playoffs, man.
Hey, but to your point, Gafford is the best Wizards big, and he should have been playing way more since they got him in a trade deadline. It's actually propelled them to the point you are here today, as he was struggling to get minutes in Chicago.
Yep.
But now, a little plug talk. Wherever you find your podcast, go follow the Triple Play Fantasy franchise. We got all things basketball, baseball, and football covered. Recently, our Triple Play Fantasy YouTube channel has been gaining traction. If you haven't subscribed, you're missing content that drops every other day. Honestly, we love what we do. We appreciate your support and listens. Every download, share, 5-star rating, and comment. It really helps us. And we're going to continue to grind to make this podcast the number 1 option, like Luka Doncic on every single play, 31, 10, and 11 in the Game 1 victory over the Clippers. Check us out on Twitter and IG at Trip Play Fantasy. Eric and Brad run our social media and provide daily questions. Our weekly episode drops as well as spot interviews. Please, to check out the interview with the Schwab. Yes, we sat down with Stump the Schwab, the sports trivia legend himself. That is the type of things we are doing around here. Just want to say thanks from the entire Triple Play Fantasy family for your listens each and every week. And now it's time for a little NBA catch-up for our final week. Starting with...
we got a Davis Bertans game going.
Stop it.
2 threes.
Stop
2 threes
it.
early. 2 threes early.
Come on. He played 33 minutes against Boston, had 4 points, was 1 for 8. He's
all right,
terrible.
now
He can't
he's
defend
already
anybody.
got 6 right now.
Okay. A lucky 6.
Just what's really funny?
He's going to give up 35.
As
So go
somebody
ahead.
that's listens to the pod every week, and I'm coming on for the first time. I would, if I didn't know Brad, I would know him for 2 things. I would know him for Andre Drummond being the best rebounder of all time, and calling for that Davis Bertans max contract.
Oh my God. Davis
I stand by both of
Bertans.
those.
Huh? You still stand by that?
Oh yeah, he's having a bad season.
He got $80 million.
I'm aware.
He can't guard anybody.
He also was top 4
God.
in 3 points made for the past 4 seasons running. The dude's a sharpshooter.
You're the biggest Wizards fan, but I don't know if you watch the games because he is just the worst. He might be the worst player in the NBA. He's
As I literally live comment, you're asking me if I watch the games.
Oh my God. Wow,
This is a
Davis
good
Bertans. Hey,
podcast.
by the way, he just let Jason Tatum drop 50 on his head. But we'll move on from the
Yes, he
Davis take.
Come on, you act like Jason Tatum's some scrub. He drops 50 on everybody.
You guys could see the just distraught look on James' face if you're not watching the YouTube right now. He's look like he's about to have a breakdown.
Wow. Oh my God, he's unplayable. All right, our impressive performance of the week. Who carried their team in the playing games and got them into the official dance? We'll start with David.
I mean, I was looking at some box scores. I mean, Ja Morant in a must-win game.
The casual looking at the box scores.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, Ja Morant 35 against the Warriors. But there is one thing I do know, and I actually wanted to ask you guys this because I played a lot of basketball DFS last year, and Dillon Brooks, I think, is one of the most overrated players in the league. He was 7 of 22 in that game for a -1. And I feel like he's the guy that takes a bazillion shots but isn't efficient with them. Am I wrong?
Yes, you're wrong.
Yes, you're very wrong.
Yes,
Me and Brad are on
right.
the-
No,
me and
you're
Brad
right.
are on
We're
Brooks
splitting
train
here
there.
2-2. We had this whole Harrison Barnes, Dillon Brooks conversation.
Did you see him lock down Steph?
Lockdown, Steph.
He locked down
Is
Steph.
Dillon Brooks
Steph?
good enough to take 20 shots a game right now?
Yes.
Is that where we're
On
at?
that team.
Steph had
yes.
37.
Absolutely.
Did he lock him down? He had 37.
Give Ja Morant.
They
10
weren't
more
all on
shots.
Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks was Steph Curry was 2 for 10 when Dillon Brooks was guarding him.
He's a foul-happy,
Oh
inefficient
my
shooting player, and he does provide some value. He is a good defensive player, but I think to David's point, he is a little overrated, and I really wouldn't want him on my team for the future.
Agreed.
So,
This casual agrees.
yeah, for sure. At least I got the casual support, but that Ja Morant call was beautiful because he really does look like a superstar. I know we had this conversation. I was the only one who took Ja Morant over De'Aaron Fox, but of course I kind of was flip-flopping because De'Aaron Fox I think is going to have health for his entire career. He definitely should get a nod, David. I really do like that pick. Brad.
Good pick. No, you already know what I'm going to say. You might as well just skip me.
Yeah.
It's Russ.
I know what he's gonna say.
It's Russ. It's
That's
clear.
why I didn't pick him.
I mean, Russ.
Cully.
I honestly I can't say his praises any more than I have in the past 33 pods that we've done. So
He's been impressive performance of the week the last 10 weeks here on Triple Play Fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the dude literally does everything for his team, and it's just an incredible upgrade that we were able to have over John Wall. And John Wall had a really good season this year. He looks healthy. He looks like himself, and I was glad to see him do well with Houston. But Russ just provides so much more. He's younger, and I think he fits better with Brad Beal. I think he makes for a promising future in Washington. I really think they're going to be able to build around 2 All-NBA guys, potential All-NBA guys.
Kev, who you got?
Yeah, I got Dillon Brooks, and the reason why is because against Curry. So Curry, he did have a.
I thought you were joking.
No, I got Dillon Brooks. Get out of here, Mindy. This is the basketball pod. Okay, so Dillon Brooks.
We love
when
it,
he
Dave.
guarded Curry, it was 2 for 10. So Curry was 2 for 10. He picked him up full court. And if you're a coach, like Coach has in his tagline, you would understand that what he did was he made him tired. He made him work.
Yep.
You watch Curry by the fourth quarter, he was dying out there. You could see just kind of what he was going at. And then even against DeMar DeRozan in the game against the Spurs, he held DeRozan to 20 points on 5 for 21 for shooting. That Dillon Brooks, yes, he takes bad shots sometimes. But his defensive presence, what he has, if there was better players on that Memphis Grizzlies team, I don't think he would have to take as many shots. He'd be more efficient. But what he did defensively, that got him into the playoffs.
Kevin, do you feel the same loneliness that I feel being the only one that knows basketball?
Lonely.
It's all right. Yeah, I'm glad we're here together.
I'm
Brad.
not talking about him as a
Because we can
bad overall player.
each
I
other
was just saying that he's
Ben Simmons, Dillon Brooks. We know the
Yes,
good ones.
we know real ones over here.
Hey, a guy that shoots 16 shots a game and shoots at 42% from the field. Unless you're Allen Iverson, bro, I don't want you on my team.
Yeah,
You realize
give those
he has
shots.
to take those shots. There's
Give
nobody
those-
else that can do it.
What?
It's the way that they're
I'm
built.
pulling up Memphis's roster, and I guarantee I'll find 3 guys that should take more
There's
shots.
won't.
nobody there.
You
You will
won't.
not. You literally will not.
They are terrible.
My guy is, and I don't know if this is an asterisk invalid because they were playing the Wizards, but Jason Tatum did drop 50 in an elimination game. Yeah, he had Davis Bertans with the assignment. Oof. And then they of course, Scotty Brook let the switch happen where Ish Smith, Neto, Brad Beal were all guarding him at times, but he just put his team on his back, and the Wizards had nothing to do, couldn't do anything with him. So unfortunately, they drew the Nets, probably our best team in the NBA. But it's definitely Jason Tatum. Anytime he dropped 50 in the playoffs, I don't even know if it's a playing game. Is that considered a playoff performance?
No,
I don't
it's
know.
actually not.
It was, it got him in. It was cold, and then my other guy was John Morant. That was just unbelievable to do that to Steph Curry.
Yeah.
All
So before we transition here, give me Jaren Jackson Jr. over him. Give me slow-mo. If slow-mo took more shots.
Wait. You want Jaren Jackson Jr. to shoot more threes than Dillon Brooks?
I mean, I feel like Jaren Jackson's probably a better overall scorer.
Absolutely.
And then I guarantee you slow-mo is a very good all-around player, but I thought he was like 5 for 9 or something the other day. You give slow-mo 20 shots, I bet you he's a lot more efficient with them.
Slow-mo?
Kyle Anderson.
Kyle Anderson.
Kyle Anderson shouldn't even be in the league anymore, David. I don't know.
No. I don't know about that, but I like Kyle Anderson.
He's had a really strong seasons, and defensively, he's a good player. He blocks a lot of shots. Grayson Allen can be getting those shots. Desmond Bain could be getting those shots. He does have that confidence factor that, like, I think I'm better than I am, and sometimes that does help propel your team. So, quick take. Who's going to drop 40 or maybe 50 next? I mean, we saw Tatum do it. Dave.
I mean, if Dillon Brooks takes 50 shots, he'll probably do it.
All right, listen. It's going to take him 60 shots.
But I'm going to go Jason Tatum because you brought him up. With Jaylen Brown not there, he's the number 1 and 2 scoring option. Kemba Walker, from the basketball I've watched this season, looks a lot more of a complimentary player than I've ever remembered seeing him. So I think Tatum is going to be one of those series where he's going to average 30 plus a night, and I could see him dropping 50.
Kemba was getting elbowed in his face yesterday, and they were calling defensive foul. Like James Harden literally was running 100 miles an hour going like this, and Kemba's got a good defensive stance, and he's getting a foul call on him. Next play, it's Kevin Durant. It's like those Nets superstars be getting rewarded for literally, and they all do it, all 3 of them. They put turbo on, they run into you. You're like backpedaling, but you're still in good defensive position. That used to be an offensive foul. Now that's a defensive foul. And because they are superstars, they're going to get the benefit of the whistle. I don't know if it was because it was in Brooklyn yesterday, but it was unfortunate to watch that because Boston's already shorthanded, and like they don't need to be getting any favors from the referees, the Nets. But I like that Tatum pick. Sorry for that rant, but that would just that killed me yesterday. Kev,
I'm gonna go Trae Young, even though
I like it.
Even though they're playing the Knicks, but he did have 31 against the Knicks this year, and I could see him just chucking these up in the playoffs.
In the Garden. That would be beautiful.
I'm gonna go Trae Young.
All right, Brad.
I'm going to go with that same matchup, and I'm going to go Julius Randle. He's got the best matchup in terms of a bad defense to go against, and he's got a very high usage rate with New York, and he's actually playing a little bit of point forward as well now, which has really propelled his most improved player candidacy. And he's shooting threes well. Like I really think he can drop some big numbers in this playoff. So he's going to be my pick.
That's a good. I like all these picks, and Trae is always a big time performer. And then obviously the Knicks, they run everything through Julius Randle. For me, it's Damian Lillard. I could see him dropping multiple 40 pieces in this series. Last night he was 10 for 25, so he's not shy to shoot it up. He was 5 for 12 from 3. He ended with 34. You make 2 more of those shots, you're in the 40 club. And when Dame is hot, he lets it. He lets it known that he has a flamethrower. And my guy is Damian Lillard. All right, but the reason why you're here is our NBA playoff matchups and predictions. Who wins? How many games? We're gonna state our case, matchups, previous experience coaching, whatever your reason might be. But briefly before we get to that, we're gonna get our takes on our 6th man and then our most improved player of the year. 6th man of the year finalists: Joe Ingles, Jordan Clarkson, and Derrick Rose. David, who you got?
It's an interesting list. I think that they're going to give it to Derrick Rose. And I think the Knicks coming back into the playoffs this year, he was a big part of that. Obviously, Julius Randle took his game to another level, but I think there's the name. I think there's the team aspect. I just think that it all lines up. Utah is like a very balanced all-around team. The fact that you have two guys on the same team up for the award, I think that just is they're gonna cancel each other out, and it's gonna go to Derrick Rose.
Brett.
I'm going to go with Clarkson. I think Derrick Rose is a good pick, but he kind of came on late. And this is a kind of a full season award. And
yeah, he
Jordan
was playing
Clarkson,
for Detroit. That's why.
Exactly. Yeah, he was playing for Detroit, and it didn't come on until he went to the Knicks. So Clarkson, he's been the sixth man, but he's getting starters minutes, and that's kind of the best recipe to be the sixth man of the year. Between him and Lou Williams, they should kind of name the awards after them. So Clarkson's my pick.
Kev.
Yeah, I'm going with Clarkson. He's averaged 18.5. I'd give a shout out to Rose, though. Rose, my guy. I'm glad he's back and he's healthy and those things. I can't vote for Joe Ingles just because he looks – and he started 30 games, but he can't do it. So I got Clarkson.
Give me Joey Ingles.
No.
You're just trying to be different.
No, he's the engine that could for Utah. Whether he's starting, he's coming off the bench, his ability to defend all the positions, his versatility to play in any lineup, his passing, his shooting. He has the highest true shooting percentage of all time this year, over 60%. Give me Joey Ingles for everything that he provides to that Utah team. Donovan goes down, he steps up, and he really kind of struggled with his shot last year, and I think that's been a big part to how the ball moves over there in Utah. And then, I mean, I know what he looks like, but he actually can defend at a pretty high level.
He's a way better player than his box score indicates every year. Like he's just there's a reason they have the best defense I think like top 3 defense in the league right now in terms of defensive rating, and it's because of Gobert and Ingles. Like they really just lock people down. So I think that's a great pick, but to Kevin's point, like he started 30 games this year. That's kind of tough.
Kevin, Brad, and James are walking down the street holding hands, and Joe Ingles passes you guys walking by on the other side of the street. Do you guys recognize him?
Yeah, he's like 6'7".
I mean, do you know who he is what I'm saying? Like, you're like, oh, that's Joe Ingles.
Look at that mug. I mean, it's pretty identifiable.
You would be able to point out Joe Ingles on the street?
Oh, yeah.
No doubt.
I probably wouldn't.
There we go.
To be honest, I'd probably be like, that's a tall white guy.
Yeah. Yeah, but D Rose has made that Knicks team dangerous down the stretch, and he's won them some games in the fourth quarter. They struggled with that before he got there. So, shout out Derrick Rose and just who he is as a professional after all those major injuries. So we're going to move on to our most improved player of the year between Julius Randle, Michael Porter Jr., and Jeremy Grant. Kevin.
It's Julius Randle. I don't know how he doesn't win this thing. I mean, what he was able to accomplish and come back with what the Knicks did. Julius Randle easily. But Michael Porter is going to be a star. But Julius Randle.
Brad.
Only one of the guys that were listed are going to be part of one of the All-NBA teams. So I think it's clearly Julius Randle.
And D. Mindy.
Yeah, when the casual knows the answer this easily, it's definitely a lock. It's Julius Randle. Although I will always be pissed that the Wizards missed out on Michael Porter Jr. by 1 pick.
They could have drafted Jeremy Grant, too, who's a local product going to DeMatha High School. But I think it's a clear-cut thing. And, yes, Michael Porter Jr. is going to be a star. Yes, Jeremy Grant improved all his numbers, doubled all of them, in fact, and wanted to be a number 1 option there in Detroit and had a fantastic season. But it is by far Julius Randle's award to win. 24, 10, and 6. Last year, he averaged 19.5 and 3 assists. So to double down on your assists, but for me, it's the shooting percentages. He goes to 41% from the 3 and 81 to the free throw line. He was 27 from 3 and 73 from the line. The previous year, he's everything to that New York Knicks organization, and to get him into the 5 seed is just amazing. So I think we can all finally agree on something here, Triple Play Fantasy Basketball, and that is Julius Randle is a stud, and he probably makes that 3rd team All-NBA. All right. Do any of these play-in teams that got in stand a chance? We're going to start with Philly versus the Wiz, and we're going to start with our own Gandalf wizard over here of sorts, and that is Bradley Kilgore.
Yeah, no, I stick with what I'm saying about the Wizards. I really think they have the ingredients to make a deep run. Philly has had trouble really getting over the hump for the past few years. I don't think they've really mastered the way in which Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are going to work together. I don't think they should blow it up, because I think if you have, two all NBA guys, you should keep them together and figure it out and build around them. But they're not there yet. I think the Wizards are really hitting their stride. They're down 3 right now in the second half, and they're really giving them trouble. I honestly think, and that's without Brad Beal doing anything yet. So I honestly think, when the Wizards are doing their thing and, scoring 120 points, 130 points without defense, there's not a lot of teams that can keep up with that. And I really think that the Wizards can make a deep run.
Dave.
I'm a Wizards fan for what it's worth. But the fact that it's a 3-point game and Joel Embiid's in foul trouble, the moment Joel Embiid is in that game, it's Daniel Gafford stopping Joel Embiid. Like, Joel Embiid's going to go for 30 and 20. Like, I don't see them having an answer for him.
And who else?
Hookshot Robin Lopez. Maryland's own Alex Len.
I mean, his offensive game is just awful. Just setting screens and doing these weird looking hook shots. I think the Wizards will. My prediction is I think it'll go 5, and I think the Sixers will win it in 5. I would love to be wrong, but I just don't see anybody stopping Joel Embiid, and that being a huge problem.
I agree with you. I think Joel Embiid can't be stopped. He's one of those people that they're just gonna get what they're gonna get. But are the players around Joel Embiid gonna do enough to propel them over the team that they're facing? And to me, that answer is no. Like I don't want to count on Tobias Harris or Ben Simmons to score. I don't want to count on Furkan Korkmaz or Seth Curry. Like I like my chances with Russ and Beal.
I heard Ben Simmons' name, and thus we must pass the microphone over to Kevin Coleman.
Well, you forget that I'm a Westbrook stan before I was a Ben Simmons
There you
stan.
go.
So this is hard for me. This is definitely a weird. It's like watching my 2 kids play against each other in sports or something. I'm gonna go. I think the Sixers will outlast the Wizards, but the Wizards can score. So the thing is like anytime you see upsets and stuff, is if we have these guys that can just score points. And they can definitely do that. I do think Doc Rivers is a 10-time better coach, probably a 100-time better coach than what the Wizards have over there with Scotty Brooks. So I just think that they're going to make adjustments better. So that's why I would just say the Sixers are going to probably outlast them. But they can score, and Beal and Westbrook are going to put up points. So it's one of those things.
I have to interrupt right now. Joel Embiid just picked up his 3rd foul because Alex Len is he's being active right now.
I didn't even know Alex Len was in the league anymore. Look at that.
Oh, yeah. He's our starter.
I'm supposed to be the casual here, Kevin.
I'm just kidding. He shouldn't be in the league. That's easy what I say. All right, go ahead, James. I know what you're going to say.
I'm a little bit in between what Mindy and what Kev had to say. I think it'll probably be a gentleman's sweep here with the Wizards having won. Maybe it's game 1 and maybe squeezing out another 2 from a spectacular performance from Russell Westbrook and maybe Bradley Beal. If Bradley Beal wasn't dealing with this hamstring injury, he's definitely like not 100%. I've noticed that for now a month now, and he's just kind of fighting through it. When he was blazing, dropping, 60, multiple 50-point games this year, I think they were super, super dangerous. But the role players that we're talking about, some of us are literally Googling Alex Len right now. Like, when was the last time he actually played? The role players are just horrible. Scotty Brooks makes no mid-game adjustments ever. Like when you're switching Neto on Tatum, Ish Smith on Tatum, it's obviously like this is a bad call here. And Ish Smith being a top 5 player on this team just shows how they really don't have much outside of Russell Westbrook. And I think that'll catch up to you. Thomas Bryant tearing his ACL. Even Denny Avdija, who wasn't scoring too much, was our best defender, like as far as guard some of these bigger guys on the perimeter, and he just played smart basketball. Embiid's going to drop 40 in multiple games, probably next game after doing this foul trouble crap in game 1. So I'm rooting for my Wizards. Of course, I got my Bradley Beal jersey on right now. But
Alex Len is dominating right now.
Game.
This is absurd. This is
just a tough matchup, and Philly's defense is one of the best. And then, as Kev mentioned, Doc Rivers is actually a good coach. So we'll move on. The Nets versus Boston. Kev.
Yeah, so if I'm looking at the Nets versus Boston, this will be quick. Nets are there's no way Boston even wins this series. Not even close. Nets are gonna win the championship if they stay healthy.
Brad, I concur. Brad.
I think the Nets sweep Boston. I don't think that Boston has a chance without Jaylen Brown being healthy. And if you can just, I mean, we saw last game they held Jason Tatum to 22 points. Like if you can key in on Jason Tatum and he's your only source of offense, you don't really have a chance to win. So I think the Nets sweep this one, but I don't see them coming out of the East because they don't have that continuity. They don't know how to deal with, last 2 minutes of the game and it's close. Like they don't know who's going to get the ball and they don't know who's going to take the last shot, who's going to bring it up court, what defensive sets are they going to have. There's just a lot of things to deal with that they haven't had to deal with yet. And they probably need a year together to handle that before they can be the best team in the league.
And man, was Jason Tatum frustrated with Kevin Durant getting that defensive assignment? He had him shackled. He showed him who the alpha was. Like he showed him the different tier group. He's like, nah, you just not up here, buddy. Kevin Durant. Oh my.
You're nice, but you're not there yet. You're not two-way Kevin Durant.
Goodness. Yeah, and yesterday the Nets were they played bad. It was nothing was going in. You saw a lot of isolation basketball from KD, from James Harden, from Kyrie, and they weren't making too much. But
you can't do that in the playoffs. You can't make a deep run playing iso ball.
They're gonna explode. They're gonna explode on this, and whoever comes out of that Bucks and Miami rematch series, they're gonna have a rested Nets team because Nets might take this in 4 games. All right. Ben, do you want to chime in on this one or should we move on? All right. You're on mute.
Casual and a rookie.
There's a better chance I dunk on a 10-foot rim than Boston wins that series. So let's move on.
At least Ben Wallace could dunk. You could throw the lob on that. All right. We got Utah. League's best record versus our Grizzlies who just beat the Warriors. Dave, we'll start with you on this one.
I think it could be a competitive series. I think it's going to go 6, but I think the Jazz got it. I think the Jazz earned that number 1 seed. They have better depth than the Grizzlies. We talked about they don't have any scoring options if Dillon Brooks is your number 2 scorer. So Jazz easy for me. I think I'll go 6 though.
Kev.
The Jazz are frauds, and they always have been, and they will get shown out very soon. I think they're going to outlast them this week. But if we're being honest, the best player on the court probably plays for the Grizzlies. And so that's where I kind of tend to go with talent wise. But they'll outlast them, I guess. But the Jazz are a bunch of frauds. They have been all year. Everybody needs to stop talking about the Jazz. No one's coming out of the West, but the Lakers, the Clippers, pretty much to me is still in that category.
And Kevin dislikes Donovan Mitchell's game more than Shaquille O'Neal.
Yes.
Brad.
The Jazz are not frauds. They have the best net rating in the league. They got the best offense, best defense. They've got a lot of talent on that team. I don't expect Memphis to win a game. I think Memphis. They've cleared an incredible hurdle in getting to the playoffs, right? Like I think with that, they don't have a single player over the age of 30 on their team, and I think like a majority of them are under 25. So it's a tremendously young team. And just getting to the playoffs is an incredible accomplishment. But there's a reason that Utah is the number 1 seed, and it's because they're really good. I just don't think they have the firepower to keep up against that defense or that offense, really. So I think this is a sweep.
All right. Well, I'm almost closer with D-Mindy on this one. I think there's potential this one could go 6, and I think this is really good for not only Ja Morant and Triple J, but that entire Grizzlies team, as you mentioned, one of the youngest teams in the NBA to get some experience, some playoff experience. Now for the 2nd year in a row, yes, it was a play-in last time. They didn't make it past that, but just those little stints in the playoffs really help propel a player's trajectory going forward. And man, I think that they can kind of coast and let Donovan kind of get in the swing of things because they're really going to need Donovan Mitchell come that round 2.
Coach, what are you gonna do when Dillon Brooks shuts his ass down this playoff series? What are you gonna do? Because I'm gonna be all on you. I'm gonna be texting you, letting you know.
Will they win?
Hey, I don't. That's not what I'm worried about. I am worried if he shuts him down.
There is something about not playing 2.5 months of basketball, having him.
Here we go.
If he comes out with a little rust and they win, like that's fine. But
when Dillon Brooks shoots 9 of 27 from the field and shoots more than John Morant and they get swept, then I'm coming back on the pod to slander Dillon Brooks more.
Also, we can go back in time. I mean, he's been in the playoffs every year he's been in his career. And even in that rookie season, he averaged 27 points per game. He's a 27-point per game average in the playoffs overall. Last year, he averaged 36. Like, the dude is a hooper, and he puts his team on his back. And yes, okay, maybe they haven't won the Western Conference or gone to the finals.
Said, did he win? Did he win? And now you're like, oh, well, he didn't win, but
he didn't win the finals, but they have no
that's
chance.
All I care about. It doesn't matter. Don't win the finals.
All right, cool. Donovan Mitchell, a guy's chosen like 14 overall.
I love
the championship.
I love whatever coach gets hot. It's all right, cool.
All right, cool.
That's cool. All right, because look, everyone has opinions. We can respect each other for having them. That's why I love getting on here and talking back and forth, because even we can agree to disagree. We still got.
I'm not sure you love this take.
I love it. I live for these moments. All right. Cool. Suns, Lakers. Kev, my guy, my man. Coach Kevin.
Lakers in 5. I think that if they're healthy and they're the most talented team, I can't see LeBron those guys losing. The Suns have Chris Paul, yes, but everybody else has not been there. Playoff experience matters. We've seen it in basketball every year. We see it. Thunder lost their first round when they made it with all those guys, Harden and those guys. So playoff experience matters. I think Chris Paul will get a game, maybe 2, but I still think the Lakers in 5.
All right, Brad.
I struggle with this series the most. We've had a lot in our group chats. Yeah, we've had a lot in our group chats. Like I'm constantly telling Coach that the Lakers look trash, and they kind of do. And LeBron doesn't really look right. AD's incredible, but he's always getting hurt, or maybe he's having an off night. Like I just don't really know what's going to happen. But at the other end of the spectrum, like Kevin said, like Phoenix, they've never been here, and continuity matters and experience matters, and they don't have that. So I don't really know what to expect. So I'm going to lean with Vegas on this one. I think the Lakers win, but I'm going to say in 7.
D-Mindy.
Yeah, I have Lakers in 7. I think Devin Booker is going to put LeBron in the crock pot and cook him up a little bit. But I mean, Devin Booker's unguardable. So I think either LeBron's going to be smart and switch off of him and guard Chris Paul.
LeBron's not guarding.
There's no way LeBron's guarding Devin
Okay,
Booker.
well, that's fine then.
That's his image. That's his image.
Yeah, so all right, take back my crockpot comment then. But yeah, I think they actually go 7.
If he did, he would lock up Devin Booker though. Let's not slander LeBron James' defense. He's
LeBron at 50 years old is still locking up anybody. Like
exactly.
He's just a freaking
what were we talking about? This is LeBron James.
Chris Paul will make sure this goes 7.
Yeah.
I'm confident in that, but I think the Lakers will lose.
And
Lakers will win. I'm sorry.
And Chris Paul is infamous in his Game 7 performances, not going too hot. And it's so funny because I had this too. I even put down. The Lakers might even go down 3-2. I know that years ago when they were facing the Atlanta Hawks, they were down 3-2. Then they went and faced the Boston Celtics. They were down 3-2. But at the end of the day, LeBron James in elimination games, there's no one better in this league and maybe of all time for his performances when his team really, really needs a win. In that playing game, he kind of just laid back. He's just kind of being quarterbacking. But then in the fourth quarter, he put his foot on the pedal and he took that game over. The Lakers do have the number 1 defense in the NBA, even with all that time AD and LeBron has missed. And then you got Andre Drummond in the mix, KCP, Schroeder guarding you full court. They got a lot about Caruso is a good defender. I think all around Wes Matthews, Thalen Horton-Tucker, top to bottom, they have just really good defensive players, and it might not be the prettiest style of basketball, but they will bruise you enough to win when it matters. So I'm a little scared of the matchup, but if LeBron James on the court, I'm taking that team.
He's also never lost in the first round ever. LeBron.
Facts. No, Absolutely not.
There's a first time for everything. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I just don't. Yeah, we'll see. But this is a 7 seed going against a 2. But I think they're an intriguing matchup. But I'm going to go to what I consider my most intriguing matchup, and that is the Bucks and the Heat. 3 seed for the Bucks, Miami Heat 6 seed. This is a rematch from last year's playoffs where it was the Heat that did take the league MVP down, led by Bam Adebayo. Let's go, Kev, to start things off on this one.
Yeah, this is the toughest one for me because I love the Heat, and I don't really like how the Bucks are made up, but they have Giannis there. And Middleton, we saw last night what he did. I think it's going to be
your boy Middleton.
I hate Middleton, but I think it's going to go to 6 or 7. I think it's going to be very close either way. I'm going to lean the Bucks, but I don't feel good about it. I kind of feel gross picking them, but I think they're – I don't know. The Heat aren't playing great. They had the issues with COVID in the middle of the year. They have Jimmy Butler, though, so it's hard for me not to pick the Heat. But I think the Bucks, it's going to be 6 or 7.
Brad.
I honestly think the Heat win this one in 5. Like, after watching the game yesterday, the Bucks they don't look good. They don't know how to operate their new roster in the playoffs. Drew Holiday, he came on in the second half and he looked really good. But if I have to count on Chris Middleton in the fourth quarter, I like the Heat chances. They were outscored tremendously in the paint, and I think they forced overtime off of Jimmy Butler being like, I don't know, he was like 4 for like 15 or something. I don't even have the stats in front of me. Like, they got the worst of Jimmy Butler, they got the worst of Bam, and they barely lost. Like, I just don't see a path for the Bucks to win this because Giannis has not evolved. Like, he still does the drive to the middle of the lane and do the spin move, and then he runs into a wall of defenders and he doesn't know what to do but draw an offensive foul or draw a foul. Like, it's the same thing he's been doing since he was a rookie in the league. We know the playbook against him, and they just haven't evolved. They don't have the shooters around him still. I don't see a way for the Bucks to win.
He is who we thought he is.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm actually very confident the Bucks win this in 6, and I'll tell you why. Number one, I think Giannis is definitely taking that loss in the conference finals to them personally last year.
I like what you're selling here, D-Mindy. I like what you're selling.
I don't think they're going to let loose to them again. I do agree with what Brad said. Like, I think those are very valid points. I do think Heat kind of hit their magical run last year. I don't see that happening again this year. Whether it's, again, like you got the worst game up from Jimmy Butler and Bam. The next game, the Bucks all of a sudden start getting hot from 3. I think when it's all said and done, I'm very confident. I think the Bucks take this in 6. And I think having Drew Holiday there, having Middleton there, I'm a big Dante DiVincenzo fan. I think he can be a factor.
White
Dante.
I think he can be a factor. And they have I like Brook Lopez too. Brook Lopez is a solid big. I do think that it may not be pretty, but I do think they already have a 1-0 lead. I really would be shocked if the Heat came back and won this.
Nothing's going to shock me in this series. This is like about a coin flip as you get. And I did pick the Bucks preseason to go to the finals. That was pre James Harden to the Nets as well. But I think that like the Bucks last year, you had bummy self-check Eric Bledsoe out there that couldn't, throw a coin into an ocean. You replaced that with Drew Holiday.
We started this off talking about Kwame Brown. Now you're calling Eric Bledsoe a bum.
I mean, am I factual? I mean, Kwame was a bum. His best season was he averaged 10 points and 5 rebounds.
You're about to get lit up on Twitter. Kwame Brown's going to get a hold of this. And just
Are you kidding me? He is the worst number 1 overall pick of all time. Him, Michael Oklahoma-Kennedy, like you have that conversation.
Hey, James,
Anthony Bennett.
You better be careful. Kwame Brown liked my comment on his post, so I will tell him you slandered him.
You think Anthony Bennett is better than Kwame Brown?
I mean, look, it's in a conversation.
I might take Kwame Brown over Anthony.
I would too.
Kwame Brown had like I don't know how many years career. Anthony Bennett didn't even play.
Yeah, but it's okay. Yeah, I agree that he's worse, but we're still talking about a top 3, top 5, number 1 overall pick of all time.
Did you all hear that Kwame Brown said, "Who set all the screens for Kobe the game he scored 81?"
And that's a real. He said that, and people laughed at him, but that's a real thing. Like that's part of basketball. Like,
yeah,
Kobe doesn't get those buckets if he's not open off of screens. Like
My
that stuff
brother,
matters.
my brother sent me a meme. It said Kobe and Kwame combined for 62 in this game. Kobe had
Yeah.
61.
He said that. Kwame said that himself.
I think yeah.
He gets the jokes.
So the back onto like why I got the Bucks. Drew Holiday, he shoots 45% on step back 3-pointers. He made a clutch shot at the end of the third quarter. I just like the ball in his hands. And then you got PJ Tucker's defensive ability. They're switching now. That's a whole concept that they hadn't done for 2 years. They would just like, I got this guy and this guy. But the league is about switching, and they got people that can do that. Like PJ Tucker might be the master of that. And then Chris Middleton does Chris Middleton things. Like he does produce. He will give you 20 every game. And
he was cold. He was cold last night, man.
And I just think that ending 5 is a lot better. And Dante DiVincenzo is a smart player, so I like that 5 when you go with Holiday, DiVincenzo, Middleton, Giannis, and Brook Lopez to close games out. But Jimmy Butler is on the other end with Bam, and Ariza is good. So like this series is I'm glued every single game.
A little bit of an update. Washington is up 62-61 at the half. Bertans has 11 points.
All right, he'll end with 13. We'll move on with the 3-seeded Denver Nuggets versus the 6-seeded Portland. David, who you got?
This is my favorite series because I love both those teams. I don't think they get enough recognition. I don't think Dame is going down in the first round. Dame's my favorite player in the league, and I know the Nuggets are put well together, but without Jamal Murray there, I think that's enough where Portland's going to upset him. Dame and McCollum is just such a dynamite backcourt. I'm all Portland. I think it's going to take 7, but I think Portland wins it.
Kev?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Portland as well, just with the injuries and everything that the Nuggets had. It's going to be a fun series, though, because Dame's going to put up 30 to 40 a game. So I'm going to go with Portland, but neither one of these teams is a threat in the playoffs.
You guys read my notes, Brad.
I'm also going Portland, man. I think Denver got a really tough draw, and beating if they had Jamal Murray, yeah, they could beat Portland, but they don't. So I just think dealing with CJ.
Hey, but doesn't Barton give you 80% of what Jamal Murray does?
Yeah, but they need 100%.
Oh my God. And I got the same thing. I got Portland in 7. I got what Kev said. I got Damian Lillard averaging between 35 and 42 in this series. But at the end of the day, it's Jamal Murray in the clutch. They have the best pick and roll in basketball between him and Jokic. And Jokic will still get his numbers, but Nurkic is not a terrible defender. But I think it's gonna be like, can anyone else beat us? When you got Campazzo, who's he's an okay player. Out there playing heavy minutes against Damian Lillard. It's just like it's hard to even that out, especially with Damian Lillard playing Damian Lillard basketball. Go.
There was an article that came out today that's saying exactly what you just said. The Blazers are trying to get Nurkic to play Jokic in a way that he's only scoring, he's not distributing. So smart. Yeah, they want somebody else to beat them.
And we'll move on to 2 teams that were not in the dance last year, and they moved all the way up to the 4 and 5 seed, and that is the Atlanta Hawks, 4-seeded against your New York Knicks. We're going to start with Kev.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not very confident with this one. I'm going to go the Knicks just because I believe in their coach, Tibbs, and and they're a great story. And when the Knicks are in the playoffs and they're winning, it's better for basketball. So I'm going to go with them, but this could really swing either way, I think. But I think I'm going to go with the experience of Tibbs and what he brings to the table.
Brett?
I think the Knicks take this one in a gentleman's sweep. The Knicks have a top 5 defense, and I think that matters a lot in the playoffs when, the game slows down and there's a lot of half-court offense. Yeah. At the end of the day, Trae Young has been shooting a lot less three-pointers. I think somebody got in his ear and told him he's not that efficient with them. But I actually think they need him to shoot more threes to win this game or to win this series. And I don't know that he's going to do it. So I think it's clear that the Knicks have the better roster, both in the starting lineup and in the bench players. And I think DeAndre Hunter coming back to Atlanta is kind of messing. It's going to mess with the rotations and the chemistry a little bit because he spent so much time out and he used to get like 30 minutes a game. So I think the Knicks are going to take this one pretty handily.
Dave?
Yeah, the only thing I know about this series is whatever the over-under is, I'd go the over. I feel like this is going to be a no defense type of series just with these two teams. And if I had to go with my gut right now, I think I'm going the Knicks, but I'm not like confident about it. This is probably the toughest one for me to judge. I'll say the Knicks in 6.
All right, and Trae Young is in the playoffs. Like that at least is a huge draw from the casual NBA fan. That we got one of the most exciting players in the NBA, and he steps up to the brightest lights better than a lot of people. I love me some Trae Young, and that he'll get a couple games just on his own, 40 and 10, whatever it might be. But I'm kind of with you guys. Some of you, this is a hard coin flip decision. But Tibbs and D Rose and down in the clutch are going to get a team that ultimately are going to get dismantled by the Philly 76ers in the next round. But, I'm sure it's good for all New York Knicks fans and Atlanta, who can't really. Maybe the last time they were in the playoffs was Coach Bud and that whole run. But I don't like the trajectory of either one of these teams in the next round. But it'll be interesting watch. Another interesting watch, which I think both of these teams are dangerous potentially in the second round. And that is the 4-seeded Los Angeles Clippers versus the Dallas Mavericks. Dave, let's start with you. That's our last playoff matchup.
Again, it's kind of like cheating because you're like, all right, it's a 1-0 lead. But I think the Clippers, didn't they play them last year?
Last year in the playoffs, yep.
Yeah, I think the Clippers win it again. Like Kev said earlier, I'll be shocked if it's not a Clippers-Lakers NBA Western Conference Finals. So they'll get it right. They'll get through this series. I think it might take 6 games, but Luka's their only real offensive threat. I don't know what the hell happened to Kristaps Porzingis. Just literally looks like he plays no type of defense. He's a big body, but literally just shoots. I would love if they kind of ran an offense where he kind of got the ball and then used his body inside to create an interior presence, but that's not in his game right now. So Clippers.
I think he's decent defensively. Brad?
Yeah, if you had asked me this yesterday, I would have said the Clippers are going to sweep. That's obviously not what happened. Nope. I don't know how Dallas has even managed to get the 5 seed. They're not a good team, and I don't think Luka is.
Watch it.
I don't think I don't think he's progressed to that tier where he can carry a team to a playoff series win. But I'm clearly wrong about that because he just beasted off of Kawhi and Paul George. Like Paul George didn't have his normal pandemic P performance. He had like 25, 5, and 5 last night. He played really well in the second half. So he got into some foul trouble early, but he finished with a great stat line. I honestly can't have any slander for Luka. I think he's proven that he can literally carry a team, and they got a 1-0 series lead. So I'm just going to give him the nod. I'm going to go ahead and say Dallas is going to win. And
I heard Paul George being mentioned, so we're going to move on for Coach Kev to take over.
Yeah, Pandemic P is back. He did all right in that second half. I can't. The problem with me is I cannot pick Paul George in a series because he's probably one of my least favorite NBA players. The thing about Doncic, he had that triple double last night. He's plus or minus was 19, which I thought was pretty impressive. But guys, like to Brad's point, I mean that team is really bad. Like they got Finney Smith 37 minutes last night. I mean, gosh. Hardaway Jr., who's played okay this year, but 32 minutes. Like it just seemed Jalen Brunson had 15 last night and he played 21 minutes. But when we're looking at talent perspective, the Clippers have the talent. But again, I don't know how well those pieces fit. It's weird. It's Marcus Morris is there, or Markieff, I forget which one. Zubac, you have Beverly, you have George, you got all these guys there. I think that it's going to be close. I think the Clippers probably will win, but I'm not putting it past Doncic. He played his ass off last night. If Porzingis can do anything, they have a shot. But Porzingis.
Did you see Kawhi's dunk?
Yeah.
That was crazy. That was crazy.
Push play on that. That was amazing. Oh my God.
You guys judge me if I say I did not see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, we know you're a casual.
Goodness gracious.
You're at the gym, Mindy. It'll be all right.
You want a live reaction as you guys keep talking and I pull it up?
You'll see it on your feed when you're doing squats later this afternoon. And for me,
I'm actually a little surprised you can't dunk, Dave. I'm sure you got a strong lower body, quads, all that. You should have more bounce.
To be fair, I haven't really tried, so maybe if I just
you probably could.
Do you know his height?
He definitely can't palm the ball.
5'7"?
He can't palm the ball. There's no
that was
way.
so cool. I got the ball, stole it on a break, should have passed the ball, and oh man, he put him on a poster.
He's not Nate Robinson over here, but
look at his reaction. He's just like he's not even smiling. That's still actually a lot of emotion from Kawhi.
And I got to get my call on this. Luka freaking Doncic, people. If you're not front row watching these games, you're missing out on the next great superstar of this generation. But Ty Lue's ability to adjust from game to game, it's going to be a straight chess match between him and Rick Carlisle. I do like the supporting cast of the Mavericks this year a little bit better. I know Finney Smith plays a lot of heavy minutes, but he's their best defender. He can shoot. He can defend anybody, and he gives it your all. He's a fighter. Jalen Brunson got hurt last year. He had that shoulder surgery. He never came back in a bubble, and he is a really, really good fundamental piece coming off that bench. He plays well with Doncic and with Tim Hardaway Jr., who is shooting lights out right now.
Coach Jalen Brunson, to your point, I think he's like the reason they won that game. Obviously, it's Luka. Like he's the real answer.
He's such a smart player.
Jalen Brunson should be a starting point guard somewhere.
Like we saw what he did for Villanova as a freshman. He helped lead them to their national championship. The kid is just a winner, and he can play on the ball. He can play off the ball, and he puts you in a little spin cycle, and he finishes well around the rim. I love him. My top three backup point guards who should be starters elsewhere. Number one, TJ McConnell, Chris Paul. Number two, Jalen Brunson. And number three, Alex Caruso. And to me, there's a reason why they're on the bench, and they need to stay there. But it's good when you have a really elite starting point guard like Luka. But about Kristaps Porzingis, they lost him mid-game too, and it was a huge blow. And yeah, he has up and down performances, but I think he does hold down the perimeter quite well with blocking shots, and he's an upgrade to Zubac. And if he played like 34, 37 minutes yesterday, to me, that is a great sign. If he's healthy, they have the firepower to win this series. I'm going with Clippers, maybe even in game 7, maybe Kawhi Leonard and them getting another year under their belt. I think they propel through this series, but come next year, I don't know if we're saying Luka Doncic getting ousted in the first round. This might be his last time not advancing. The kid is just spectacular.
Kristaps spaces out the floor in a way that I didn't anticipate he would this year. Like he's really playing outside on the perimeter.
Oh yeah, I mean, when the guy, we know how he can shoot the basketball. So that to me, between them and then the Miami series, like those are some of the most intriguing matchups to me. But these are two of the best players in the entire league, and Luka Doncic and Kawhi Leonard. So that's all we have for you today, Triple Play Fantasy Basketball. We broke down all the matchups. We could go on and on. I could be here all day with you guys. Like always, I
want to throw in one thing though. I know that we're not doing question of the week this week, but just a really quick thing. If Boban Bogdanovic, or I'm sorry, Marjanovic. How do you say his last name?
You can just call him Boban.
Yeah, don't ask me.
Okay,
just call him Boban. He's
on Dallas. Guy. If he plays 48 minutes, I know it is like per rebound 48 minutes. If he played 48 minutes, how many rebounds is he getting against an undersized team?
35.
Yeah.
The only thing is, even on 2K, you can only play him like 4 minutes because his energy drains to nothing. That's how you know 2K is actually real life.
I literally will see him play a quarter, and like he'll play 10 minutes of the first quarter, and he'll have like 11 rebounds. And I'm like, why is the dude like play him 30 minutes? Let's just have fun with it. Let's let him put up video game numbers.
You can't drain him out. He's got those knees, man. You can't mess with him too much.
Yeah. Brad, Kevin, any Boban plugs before we head out? Any wild cards you want to shout out other than Dillon Brooks that spent way too much time in this pod today?
Dave, you got to get Boban on the pod.
You know what? I'm gonna reach out to him right when we're done recording. I'll see what I can do.
I'm gonna try to get Dillon Brooks on the pod. I'm just gonna send him a clip of me, and then I'm just gonna send him it.
I'm saying I'm gonna say I'm his number one fan if you get him on. So,
and I will be reaching out to Luke Walton later today. So
I won't be on that one.
Like always, stay safe. Continue to love the game of basketball like we do, and feel free to share with your friends. Hit that subscribe and like button for the team. See you next week.